is going on, Rotogrinders? Dean here. It's Dean7904. That is the daily fantasy handle around the industry. It is 5:40 in the East Coast, 2:40 West Coast, 4:40 Tennessee time. So, of course, 7 to time of the flagship show here at Rotogrinders. It is called Grinderslive. Joining me today. The reason why we're on at 5:30, I'm sure y'all pieced it together. 7:30. 7:30 is the start of the slate, not 7 o'clock. 5 games, full man booth here. Batting first. We actually took him away from the. He's probably still working there in his prop shop. Will, what's going on, dude? Are you multitasking throughout the show? Are you going to be popping in, popping out as far as the prop shop?
I'm actually letting them know now that I am on a live show because I've got content that I have to put out. But I typically put it out anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour before lock. So because lock's at 7:30, I'll probably put it out around 7. Already got my. So look, Stevie knows about this. I'm not sure if everyone else knows, but this handy dandy blue notebook has been with me for a good little while, and it's still in full effect. I know I haven't talked about it, but this is where all the magic happens outside of me looking at stuff on the computer. Write it down, scratch things off, pencil things in.
Show us some pages. I want to see what it looks like. Let's see the magic.
Handy dandy. I mean, look, it's just, hold on. Let's see. I'm going to go back. So this is, watch this. This is something from, this was baseball in 2018, looks like. Yeah. So this was baseball 2018, and this tells you how far we've come. Lineup HQ was non-existent, right?
Really?
And not Lineup HQ. Plate IQ, I think was non-existent. The first look was like really big for me, and of course fan graphs. And as you can see, this was the pages here, and I've got it all written out, organized. You might not be able to see, what's on there, but for whatever reason,
Christian Yelich, maybe? Did I see Christian Yelich?
I don't know. This was a June 27, 2018 early slate.
Yeah.
And and this tells you how far we've come. For pitching, I was looking at Dallas Keuchel, Sean Newcomb, Brent Suter, and Castillo. So Castillo was probably just coming into the league. And then looks like my 2 top stacks were going to be Milwaukee and Houston that day. And then I wrote down on here bats that I like: Cruz, Haniger, Zunino, Healy, Machado, Mookie, JD. And I had this list of catchers and prices. And then I also had the late slate. And it looks like I was looking at Heaney, Rick Porcello. How about that? Zach Eflin, Ricard, Gibson, Bieber, Alex Wood. That's probably when he was with the Dodgers. And it looks like the teams I was on that night was Oakland, Arizona, Minnesota. So yeah, but this was my old school way of doing it in the book. And I still do that for props, by the way. But I don't have to write down nearly as much.
Tell them what the prop shop in case they don't know.
Hey, Prop Shop is a fun little place where you can come in, talk all things props, all things sports. If you need to get your car worked on, come on in there. We've got some mechanics that are lurking in the building. If you want to talk disc golf, Stevie is available from time to time, and he can put you on a few things. But it's a real good place. Everybody's working together. The joint sweat, hashtag joint sweat, is in full effect. We don't compete against each other. We compete against the house. There you go.
And it doesn't cost you anything either. There's obviously a lot of premium.
Oh, yes, it is free. It is free. Yeah. Just have to have an RG account, and you can come on in the door and have some fun. No cover charge. The bouncer will let you right in. And if you get a little bit too frisky, the bouncer will pull you right out.
Do you have to dress appropriately a certain way? Tank tops?
Yes. Tank tops are okay.
No
Pants are optional.
Pants are optional. Stevie, I see Stevie lurking there as well too. Disc golf, takes. I'm sure there's some NASCAR takes. All sports he knocks out as well. Stevie from the podcast. Morning Grind. Aware of that. Stevie, how are things in your world? Are we excited about the slate tonight? We're going to talk about it in a second. Obviously, 5-gamer, plenty of time to get questions from chat as well too. So do fire off your questions there in the chat. What up, chat? Hit that like button, subscribe, turn on notifications. If we don't touch on something you want us to touch on, by all means, ask us those questions. Producer Steven's going to be compiling those questions, throwing them my way. We'll knock them out end of the show, last 10 minutes, give or take. Stevie, thoughts? Things going on in your world all good? And general assessment as far as tonight's 5-gamer, which it feels like it's more because there's a lot of question marks still up in the air.
Well, I lit up the disc golf course this morning, so I mean, I'm in a good mood. So it's always a good thing. I mean, this slate was a really good slate, and then the Portland news happened. I really like this slate. There was a game or two I think you could have almost crossed off. As far as like the prop shop, I try to post something in the morning almost every day for NBA because I do a lot of my research in the morning for premium content, and I try to jump on stuff before it moves. So I try to post stuff over there in the morning. So make sure you're checking that out. I posted one little 5-man flex earlier today. So hopefully that hits and we keep it going. Last night was big in the prop shop.
See, you're in Florida, just like I'm in Florida. And I was literally on Twitter. I saw one of the beat writers for Portland saying that like Lillard's not going to play. And now I'm training my brain. First thing I do is I get my phone, pull up the Hard Rock app. And whoever is working at the Hard Rock is incredible. They're too
so fast. Yeah.
They're way too good, man. We're in the wrong state because I'm ready to smash CJ McCollum over 20 points or whatever it was, 19 and a half or 20 and a half. And I'm just, putting in a big number and boom, suspended. Right as I'm hitting suspended. Like it's like a 15-second, the guy sees the tweet and he can't, I don't know how, who's ever working there is very good at their job. And I hope they find another job because they're too fast for me.
You can, so, I mean, I'm with you. The Hard Rock has gotten a lot faster. When it first opened, like the first week or so, you had about a minute and a half. You don't have that long anymore, but I will say you can still like jump on it on Prize Picks because I mean, right when I'm like, I've trained my brain like you, Dean, trained my brain for, all right, news is broke. I need to go on the sports book and see if there's anything I can take advantage of as fast as I can. Ooh. And then I try to go on Prize Picks and do that. But I mean, we just got news that Gary Trent Jr. is out. So I think we're ready to really pump up this slate.
We need more value pieces.
Submit. I told you, listen, Steve, that's why I was on this Toronto-Memphis game, which I don't think too much is going to change. But, man.
Steve McCallick all of a sudden becomes one more value play to talk, to enter the conversation. But we already have plenty of value. It's really, really interesting. It's like 5-gamer. We're going to go game by game. In addition to, as far as Toronto, as far as their injuries, with Trent being out, they're also without currently OJ Anunoby is not playing. He's got a hip, so he's out. Cam Birch is out with his knee. So Toronto is missing some, 3 of their key pieces. Well, Birch 2.5, I suppose. And it's a really, really interesting slate, Will, as far as how it's setting up when it comes to building lineups, because it's a full-fledged doubleheader. It's just so weird. There's 2 games at 7:30, right? 2 games at 7:30, and then you just chill until 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, you got 3 games. Well, 10, exactly 10 o'clock. 3 games at 10, 2 games at 7:30, and there's still some stuff up in the air, but Portland's got to clear that to some degree. We're basically winning in New York. The Knicks, we'll get that at some point during the show. If not during the show, we'll get it on crunch time and Andy will break it down. But there's so much up in the air as far as New York. We'll talk about them soon enough. But what is your thought as far as attacking or lineup building and how we don't really see slates like this in basketball? 2 games at 7:30 and 3 at 10 and nothing in the middle.
I think you just got to play who you like, right? If you like somebody in the early games, don't have FOMO, fear of missing out on some late breaking news. These Toronto guys are going to play, and they should play well. I mean, they're priced up already, but, they should really get the job done. Scotty Barnes, Fred VanVleet, all those guys. We already know some guys from Memphis are out, right? Dylan Brooks, 7K. And Dylan Brooks, the crazy thing about these Memphis guys, they all played low 20s, and they all were in the 30s. They were playing Sacramento. I get it. Blew them out with no Ja Morant, by the way. But I think there's still meat on the bone in this entire game, and I don't want to miss out on it. So I'm all over that game for sure. That's one of my favorites. And then the Knicks Brooklyn game, they've got guys out, right? So I think on this slate, Alec Burks 56, and they're already priced up. Fournier at 4,900. I know his projection doesn't look great, but I don't care. He's a guy that can score in bunches. I'm just saying, so many options early, I think, that we don't have to completely rely on this late news. But it is awkward having 2 games at 7:30 and 3 at 10 o'clock.
Yeah, and the weird thing is, you talk about Fournier and his projection, and it can absolutely change. And that's the second game we'll talk about. But there is currently 5 guys on New York that are questionable, 5 rotation guys that are questionable, and then Kemba Walker, I guess, is kicked out of the rotation, and maybe if everybody sits, he jumps back in. But that's just kind of something we'll keep our eye on. I suspect we're going to get a tight rotation out of New York tonight. I think we'll get that, maybe 9, possibly 10, but possibly 9. It's just going to be a bunch of if-then stuff, and hopefully we get that news soon enough. It's a 7:30 game, so again, we'll get it if not this show or the next show. The first game on the slate tonight is Memphis. Memphis is taking on Toronto. We just talked about the absence of Gary Trent. Svi Mikhaila is going to jump into that starting lineup. 216 is the total. Toronto is still a 3-point favorite here, Stevie. And we know about, Toronto and their rotations and how tight they are, and especially when there's guys out, they still keep it tight. FVV feels like an awesome play. Siakam's going to get a ton of minutes. Precious Achiuwa is another one of these like cheap guys that's going to get plenty of run with the absence of bodies, the absence of they're without Birch, OG Anunoby as well. Scotty Barnes going to get plenty of run. I mean, they don't have much off the bench. Yuta Watanabe, they kicked out Boucher out of the rotation. Like, they hate Boucher, despise Boucher. Nurse does not like him. He might get another DNP-CD, despite the fact they're missing bodies. But I think we got to start in the Toronto side here, Stevie. Just really, really solid, just solid plays with FEV, with Siakam, with Barnes, with Precious, and now Svi. All 5 of them playable, in my opinion.
So I will say really quick, just going back to your point about like 2 games and then 3 games. If you have a couple of guys not do well on the 2 games, there's going to be some lower owned either value pivots, or there's going to be some lower owned studs. I mean, you have Golden State, Phoenix, you have Portland. Everyone's going to play CJ McCollum. So if your early games don't go well, I mean, you could pivot off of McCollum. You could go to that Golden State Phoenix game, which has one of the highest totals. You could look at the Lakers Sacramento game, which they both stink at guarding point guards, and we'll talk about that. So I just wanted to say really quick that game theory wise, if stuff doesn't go right, don't love those 10 o'clock games, because you'll have an hour to kind of adjust your lineup depending on how your early games go. If you have a low owned play that goes off in the early games, I mean, you could maybe go a little chalky in the late game. So just want to say that on the Toronto side.
That's a great point. That's absolutely worth saying. And like you said, I have McCollum. Maybe McCollum will save him. Well, everybody else has McCollum, so you're not catching up. If he puts an 80 or 90 or 100, it doesn't matter. You have to get away from it and try something else. Or to the same point, like Anthony Simons is going to be super chalky. Just move to Dennis Smith Jr. and hope.
It's basketball. Anything can happen. Like Dennis Smith Jr. could come off the bench and get 25 minutes, and like you could catch up on a lot of things. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But as far as Toronto, I'm with you. I think all 5 of those guys are very playable. Civi obviously becomes way more interesting now with Gary Trent. He played 32 minutes the other day with Trent out of the lineup. Or 37 minutes. I mean, if he's going to get 35 minutes here in this matchup against a shorthanded Memphis team, this is going to be a game where you kind of throw out matchups and you just play the guys that are going to get a bunch of minutes, because all 5 of these guys, maybe even 6 of these guys are going to get minutes here.
So our current ownership projection, as far as the Toronto side, we're projecting DK specific Precious Achiuwa 32 minutes, 44% ownership. Good Lord, it's a massive number. But again, like, he's a pretty solid fantasy point minute guy, and we're expecting around 30 minutes or so. FEV 37 minutes, just a pile of minutes. I mean, that's a huge projection, but that's, assuming nothing goofy happens, that's basically where he's going to be. And 24% as far as ownership. Scotty Barnes at 32%. We have so we have Trent. That was 32 points. 21% for Barnes. We have 20 for Trent. Obviously, this is going to change. It's going to adjust, kick him out of your lineup because he's not playing basketball tonight. And as far as FanDuel will, the Toronto side, we're looking at Precious at 43%, Siakam at 31, FEV at 29, Barnes at 23. Just some rock solid plays here as far as Toronto. Do you have a favorite? Do you have a preference amongst the Raptors?
Probably going to be Civi for value, and probably Siakam for tournament play. We seem to just be down on Siakam, but the guy's still playing big minutes. He's got 50-point capability in him. He could very well be the highest scoring Raptor on this team. And if you look at the ownership distribution, him and Scotty Barnes are kind of lagging behind. Now, he may pick up a lot more ownership here because Trent is out, but it's probably going to Civi. And I'm okay with that. I just don't think there should be such a disparity between Van Vliet and Siakam, with OG out, especially.
Jumping to the other side, Memphis, Tyus Jones has a really nice price on FanDuel. It brings into the conversation of, well, there's Anthony Simons, and Anthony Simons is cheaper and possibly even a better raw points play player. So maybe Ty Jones is going to be, I don't know how alone, because you're going to spend your salary somewhere. We're projecting 27% as far as Tyus Jones. And again, he's 4.6K and he's 27 points, 28 points as far as our projection, which is really solid. Desmond Bane is going to step up. Good 3-point shooter, good player all around, to be honest. 23% projection as far as him. Triple J, we're looking at 15%. That's Jaren Jackson Jr., no longer 19, but still really, really solid, obviously. Dillon Brooks was mentioned. Don't have to ask him twice to Chuck. Not a very efficient player. We don't really care about efficiency if they're going to be allowed to shoot all day. And, slow-mo Kyle Anderson is just one of those glue guys, I suppose. Like, he's not somebody that's going to break the slate necessarily. He's a guy who can put up like 7, 7, and 7, in a couple stocks. Yeah, Stevie, as far as the Memphis side, I think Tyus Jones is a better play on FanDuel than he is on DK, just looking at the prices. Probably the best play, but again, you're going to want to spend your salary somewhere too, so I don't know how much you necessarily need the value.
Well, two things really quick. Back to Desmond Bane. A lot of the sports books, and I think even Prize Pick has him at like 16.5 points, and
15.5 on Prize.
Yeah, I mean, he scored at least 18 points in 4 of the last 5 games, and now Morant is out. So I really like that over. And then my favorite play from Memphis is Jaren Jackson Jr. And it's not even that close. Like, I obviously I like Tyus Jones. I think he's a great play, but Jaren Jackson Jr. has massive potential in this game. They're going to need his size. If he can stay out of foul trouble, he should absolutely crush in this spot. So I think ceiling wise, he has the most ceiling out of any of these guys. It's just the foul trouble that worries you the most, but he's someone that I'm definitely going to be playing DFS. I have a ton of props on him today. But yeah, I mean, Tyus Jones on FanDuel is just way too cheap. You have to at least consider him in most of your builds, especially in cash games at 4.6 on FanDuel, even with the rest of the value that's opened up, because it is a 5-game slate. Raw points are going to matter. So if you want to go cheap at point guard on FanDuel, there's still a ton of studs you can pay up for in other positions where the value might not be as good. So, I mean, yeah, Dillon Brooks, he's going to chuck. We don't have to worry about that. But I think one guy that could potentially fly under the radar here is Kyle Anderson. I think he's someone that could play good minutes. This is a matchup against Toronto where they use these bigger type wings, and I think Anderson could just sneak out maybe 28 minutes in this game. So he's a low-owned tournament play that you could potentially target here from Memphis.
The other point about Toronto, by the way, not only playing really tight rotations, tons of minutes, Memphis is the worst team in the league in defensive efficiency, the worst. And Toronto's not that far off. They're like 6th or 7th worst. Stevie, so let's just throw it out there. Anthony Simons is 4K on FanDuel, and Jones is 4.6 on FanDuel. Who do you prefer out of those two? Of course, you can play those both and just have a great time and load up elsewhere. That's definitely something you can do. And I believe multi-position eligibility will make that even easier. Yeah, Simons is shooting guard eligible. Jones just the point guard. Do you have a preference as far as those two cheapies? Our projections prefer Simons, and he's cheaper as far as raw points.
I mean, I think you have to go Simons if you had to pick, but I don't see a reason not to play both of them on FanDuel. I know what your question is, but I would say Simons for your question. But to counter your question, I think you'd play both of them here because, I mean, if you wanted to pay up for Van Vliet, he's 8,400. You could play him. I mean, you could play Harden or Booker at shooting guard or McCollum. Like, you can still get really good guards with the cheap guys. And then you could pay up maybe at small forward and point guard and center a little bit as well.
Will, thoughts?
I mean, my favorite play from Memphis, I mean, I like Anderson, but I think Dillon Brooks he's probably going to be my favorite play in this game. Like, I just think the ownership's too low, period.
Yeah, I think he's going to be more popular than on FanDuel than he will be in DK, just because DK is a full 7K. You're looking at 5.8 on FanDuel, and I assume our ownership.
FanDuel, he's going to get loaded up for sure.
Yeah, you like the DK price at 7K? Like, that's fine for tournaments, I suppose. But
that's what I mean. I mean, he played 21 minutes against Sacramento the other day. I'm not sure if you've looked at this, Dean. How many shots do you think he took in 21 minutes?
I know he likes to shoot, man. 19.
Close. 17, and he was 1 of 6 from 3, 6 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 steals. He had 34 fantasy points in 21 minutes. I gotta think this Toronto game is a little bit more competitive than the Sacramento game they had on I think it was Sunday. On Sunday, if he plays 32 minutes, he might put up 40 to 50. Like I'm not saying he's going to be this efficient. He shot 47%, but he was 17% from 3. I don't think we see that type of inefficiency from 3 today. I love Dylan Brooks in this slate at 7K. I think he's got a 50 spot at him here.
Hey, Will, I don't want to be a liar. I put out a tweet on the Twitter. I told the people out there that we're talking some basketball, and I said, of course, Chief is going to have some of his prize picks winners for the people as well.
Oh, I got the lock of the day.
Oh, in this game or some another game?
Oh, there's one in this game, and there's one in another. So anywhere you can get Fred VanVleet over 2.5 3-pointers, take it. It's so good, Prize Picks didn't even put it back up. Okay, so if you want another one, just go ahead and take Fred VanVleet over 18.5 real points. It was at 17. I still think he goes over. And then outside of this game, lock of the day for me is Devin Booker under 4.5 rebounds. I've been hammering that prop for like 5 days now, and it's beautiful.
People hate betting unders, especially such a low number. That's like a scary one for people to click. I assume his rebound rate.
Do you know how many times he's gone over 4.5 since DeAndre Ayton's come back?
Maybe once.
Maybe never. Let's see. Past couple games: 4, 3, 3, 4, 7. 1, and I think 8. And I think Ayton was out during these games. 5, 6, 7, 6. Ayton was out. When Ayton came back, those numbers just fell off the table. Let me see when Ayton came back. Ayton came back on 11-15. Okay, 11-15. So on 11-15, he had 5 rebounds. Then none. No, I'm sorry. Those are assists. 5 rebounds, 9 rebounds. Then 1, 4, 3, 3. 4-1-1. I'm taking the under.
We just got news on New York, but not really. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be a fun conversation for sure. Stevie, we're gonna move on, but tell me your favorite play on both sides of this game.
Triple J, not even close. And then I think Civi, is my favorite play from Toronto. Van Vliet's obvious, but I think Civi.
Yeah, Svi Mikhailiuk averages 0.75 fantasy points per minute. He's 3.8 on DK. That's a really appealing price. Again, there's a lot of cheap stuff out there, stars and scrubs you can make happen pretty easily. 4.8 on FanDuel, 0.75 fantasy points per minute. Same question for you, Will. Favorite play on both sides this game?
Well, I already talked about that game. I mean, that side, I like Dylan Brooks, like Desmond Bain too, but Dylan Brooks is for sure my favorite. Other side, Pascal Siakam, just because I think he's getting a little bit. I think people are a little bit afraid to roster him. He hasn't had a big upside game, so it's got nothing to do with recent performance. It's got everything to do with what I think he can do in the right scenario. This feels like the right scenario. Clearly, I'm going to be playing Civi and some Scotty Barnes as well, but Siakam is my favorite for tournaments. Battle
of New York, the Knicks in Brooklyn, 16.5 is the total. Brooklyn is a 7.5 point favorite. Okay, so New York has RJ Barrett, who's ill. He's questionable, although I just saw a note on Twitter that says he's expected to play. That's helpful. Nerlens Noel, questionable with his knee. Derrick Rose, questionable with his ankle. Mitch Robb, questionable with an illness. Taj Gibson, he's got a groin, so he's questionable. All of them just updated as game time decisions. Okay, I mean, we're just going to sit here and play the if-then game or all around, or Will, what do you want to do with New York? Because what can we say? It's just like, okay.
It's really simple. Alec Burks is going to play him. Julius Randle's minutes aren't going to be affected, play him. And Emmanuel Quickly should get some minutes off the bench. That's it. That's all I'm doing. The thing with
Quickly is I don't know how much I need him when we have Tyus Jones, when we have Simons, when we have Steve Mikhailiuk.
Well, you're asking me how I feel about New York.
Yeah. But like, if Derrick Rose doesn't play, then all of a sudden Quickly becomes interesting. And I assume I don't know what to do with Kemba, if Kemba's just officially out or if he jumps back in. If Rose doesn't play, who knows? But Burks looks like he's gonna be running the one. If all the bigs are out, like if Noel doesn't play for whatever reason, if Mitch Robb doesn't play for whatever reason, if Taj doesn't play for whatever reason.
If that doesn't happen, you better go hammer
Randall.
some Julius Randle rebounds. That's what you do.
He plays the 5, right? I assume.
It doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I don't just go. I've done this pretty much anytime Mitch Rob and these guys been out, and Randall's pretty much putting up 10 to 14 rebounds every game, and his line's at 9.5. 10, 10, 16, 10 against Houston, 10 against Chicago, 16 against the Lakers, 6 against Phoenix, makes sense, 11 against Atlanta. But if those guys are out, I'm hammering Julius Randle rebounds. He's going to be on the list.
What if everybody's in? Just let's say everybody plays, or at least like 2 of the bigs, like 2 of Mitch Rob, Taj, and Noel play. Barrett's expected to play. Rose expected to play. Then how exciting or lack thereof is New York?
Still Randle and Burks.
Burks is an awesome play on Yahoo. I think he's $12 over there. If you guys are playing Yahoo tonight.
God.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous price. He's a really, really strong play over there. Stevie, do you want to give your thoughts on New York, where we don't have all the puzzle pieces? So how do we make the puzzle? But you can play if then if you want. What's your thoughts as far as New York?
Probably cross this game off. DFS wise, I mean, props, you can always look at stuff. I think on sports books or Prize Picks or whatever you want to do. But in DFS, I mean, Julius Randle's 9,400. Even if everyone sits, does he really get a huge bump? Is he really gonna go out and put up 50 plus points? I
think it's coming tonight, Stevie.
I think he might also.
He's done it one time in the last 10 games. I mean, sure, Brooklyn, bad defensive, bad rebounding team. I get it. It's just, if Barrett plays, I don't like Burks as much. I don't like Fournier as much. Fournier wasn't going to get a ton of ownership anyway. So, I mean, and then on the Brooklyn side, like Harden and Durant are so expensive that you can play them for raw points, but I would much rather play like Curry or Booker or like studs from that game. CJ McCollum, like they're just not going to make the cut for me. Like this whole game just doesn't make the cut for me unless we get news that Robinson and Noel are both going to sit. Then I definitely like Julius Randle.
We might get the return of like one of those like 41, 42-minute games from Randle. It's a TNT game, extra commercials. We might see that. We might see a really, really tight rotation out of New York, which Tibbs has been known for, but this year it's just been kind of all over the place. He might revert back to that. It's a lot of might and maybes and if and all that kind of stuff.
What is he doing, Dean? What is he doing? Like we were so excited for like playing Julius Randle, playing 40 minutes a night. And it's like, he's not doing his thing.
I think he's realizing that he's got to tighten the rotation. I think that's what he's kind of figuring out. And step one was kicking out Kemba. And that was probably hard to do, he's a legacy in the state of New York too, right? Didn't he play at Syracuse, I believe, like played great in the Garden, but his time.
Gosh.
What?
They pulled some of the Knicks points props.
Who pulled them?
They might go down though. They might go down with Barrett potentially playing.
Yeah, I just don't know what the New York, and you mentioned Stevie as far as the pieces on Brooklyn. Yeah, and it's also worth noting, like, they're basically healthy. Joe Harris is going to be out for a while. If you missed that news, of his ankle, and Claxton's still out with his illness, but everybody else is good to go. Blake's out of the rotation now too. Like this is Kemba Walker and Blake Griffin in 2021, on teams out of rotations at this point, unless something, fouls or blowout, that kind of thing. But yeah, Harden and Durant for sure can go off. For sure can put up 55 or 60 or 65 fantasy points. It would help if New York comes along and it's not a blowout. That's why maybe you play with Randle on the other side, or a couple of pieces, especially if they're thin with the bodies that we'll get the news on soon enough, I suppose. But yeah, they're not the ones that are necessarily popping, I guess. But Harden, we're seeing 35% ownership on FanDuel, where he's 10K. Durant's 20% owned at 11K. Do you have a preference here, Will, as far as one of the studs on Brooklyn? And is there anybody else worth considering besides the big two on Brooklyn?
I don't mind playing DeAndre Bembry if he's going to get 25 to 30 minutes. I think if I had to, and I don't mind Patty Mills either. The Knicks are giving up a lot of 3-point shots. So I don't mind Patty, the guy that can kind of get there. I feel like if I had to choose between Harden and KD, I guess I'd go Harden for the peripheral upside, but KD's got so much scoring ability. It's kind of a toss-up for me.
I think I got Harden on FanDuel and KD on Durant just based upon prices. Like that's kind of the way I would go with it. And our ownership reflects it. Well, on DK, we're looking at 21, basically the same ownership for each. And like if this was like a 9-game slate, I probably wouldn't be loving either one of them. But we have the money again with all the value out there in Portland, the value on the slate in general. Svima Kalik. We talked about Ty Jones. Like you might as well spend it on some studs. And yeah, you referenced some that are playing later on. You got the Lakers. We might get all three of them, so that kind of devalues all of them individually. Curry is just fabulous. You have the money for it for sure. Yeah, it's just sort of weird. Bembry is a guy I can't. The other value is too good for me, and he's not even like stone minimum. He's 4-3. Can't do it. I'm crossing Bembry out. Will I'm making an executive decision.
Sure, be my guest.
Stevie, you like anybody outside of Durant? And yeah, Mills, of course, can catch fire from 3. He can hit 6 or 7 of those. He's kind of has to. That's more or less how he gets there. We've seen Aldridge. We've seen some LMA like ceiling games this year. He's definitely flashed out on occasion. So I guess he's in the pool, but for me, he's secondary. What do you have here, Stevie, as far as the studs or everybody in Brooklyn?
I can't justify Harden today at point guard on DraftKings because there's just so many point guards and guards and value that I think you'd play before him. But I mean, Durant, when you're looking at him as like a small forward / power forward, I could definitely see just potentially ending up on him and like just taking his raw points. He's someone that consistently puts up 50+ point fantasy games. He can have monster games. So, I mean, that's where I could see using one of the studs. I mean, Dean, I know you're in Florida too. You do the Hard Rock like free $10 bet if you do a $25 parlay.
Yeah. I got my free play.
So like I did like James Harden double. And I can't remember what I think it was Precious's rebound total. Like that was my parlay to get the 10.
Love
and
it.
then like, so I mean, like Harden, I think double. I think like he has triple-double upside in this matchup if this game stays close. So I mean, if you want to play him, I get it. It's just more of he's a point guard on DraftKings. Are you really going to play him over all this potential value at point guard today? I don't think the answer is yes.
Yeah, McCollum we'll talk about soon. Simons, we already kind of talked about as well. Those are the two clear and obvious plays, the two guys on Portland, point guard specific. But I should mention, we talked about quickly, and I didn't mean to like kind of throw them away so quickly, but didn't mean to say it that way. That was not trying to be clever there. It just sort of worked out that way. But quickly on FanDuel specifically at 4-1, that's a pretty good price, especially if, we see Rose not play and then all of a sudden it becomes more interesting. But again, we already have other guys that are really, we keep talking about. So on a different slate, maybe, but he's still, I think, in the pool of consideration. Will, your favorite play on each side of this game is who?
Alec Burks and either Harden or KD.
Stevie?
Nobody. I mean, honestly, this is not a game that like I have anything from. So, I mean, my favorites would be Julius Randle and Marcus Aldridge, I guess.
Yeah. And you reserve the right, you said, to change your mind if like, obviously a bunch of dudes are not playing, then it becomes more interesting.
I mean, the only way that like I get to playing Randle here, I think, is if Mitch Rob and Noel, but I still think I like Nurkic more. I think I like DeAndre Ayton more. Like that's the problem for me with Julius Randle today. That's all.
Let's move on to the 3 games that start at 10 o'clock. The first one we're going to talk about is the Lakers. Lakers of the Kings, rematch of that epic triple overtime game a week ago, which was absolutely amazing. I don't know if you guys watched that, but man, the Lakers are struggling to beat Alex Len led Sacramento Kings team at home. Oof, this Lakers team is so bad. 226.5 is the total. The Kings are 4-point dogs here as far as the injury, as far as the body parts. We're out. No Avery Bradley. He's out with his thumb. LeBron, he said he's going to play like at the end of the last game. If you watched his last game, he was holding his side. Clearly he was hurting his abdominal. Currently he's at probable, but it wouldn't shock me if he didn't play. We'll see. As far as the Sacramento side, we see Rashawn Holmes is off the injury report now. He was ill. We assume he's good to go. Maurice Harkless is questionable with his knee, and Harry Barnes is doubtful with his foot. Stevie, do you want to tackle these Kings rotations? Because I was digging into it. I pulled up the court IQ here at Rotogrinders. And, it's 4 different sets of games and 4 different sets of like wackiness. And if you watch the games, like some injuries have happened, some blowouts have happened. Gentry's like, well, those guys are playing well, so I'm just going to let those guys just crush the whole game. And we saw a Fox ejection. I don't know what they're doing with their rotations, and I don't think Gentry does, and I don't think it matters, and I don't think they care. And in theory, there is some value, like Chimezie Metu, if he draws a start, but doesn't mean he's going to stick around. We've seen Alex Len, I think, draw a start in like 8 minutes. Just Marvin Bagley has had his cup of coffee. What are we doing with these Kings?
I mean, flip a coin, right? Like you said, if someone gets hot, they let him run. So, I mean, upside tournament wise, that's fantastic because, I mean, if Buddy Hield gets hot, he's a guy that has that massive ceiling. So, I mean, the Lakers are terrible against point guards. I don't think Westbrook has played an ounce of defense since he came into the NBA. So I think if you want to take shots on De'Aaron Fox, he's going to be one of the lower owned studs on this slate. So he's one of those guys that I think, like, if you're looking for a potential pivot, if you're behind after the 7:30 games, that you could look at, because the Lakers are really bad against point guards. He took 32 shots against the Lakers. That was, what was it, double overtime or triple overtime? It was crazy. So, I mean, you can't expect that, but he was doing really well before overtime even started. So I don't mind De'Aaron Fox. I don't mind Buddy Hield just because of his ceiling. And I mean, I worry about Holmes and Metu just because of the Lakers, like the size they play in games. But I mean, I think they both are interesting for tournaments.
As far as the ownership stuff on the Sacramento side, let's see what we have as far as our ownership on FanDuel specifically. Yeah, Fox is like one of the safer players. We're looking at 22%, Hield at 21, Halliburton at 17. Metu is another one of those guys. It's kind of cheap. I don't know how much you need that salary savings, but he's there at 13%. We're projecting 20. I mean, we're projecting 24 minutes. I feel bad for the projection team on this. I don't know how you put it, because he could play 18. I wouldn't be surprised. He could play 32. I wouldn't be surprised. I don't know. And again, we're assuming Holmes is back. We're putting him at 28 minutes. As far as DK specifically for the Sacramento guys, we're looking at Buddy Hield being the most popular guy, just because the way the price is going to work out. That's not even a great price. 6'6", 15%. Metu, 14%. Again, we're projecting 14 minutes, 24 minutes for him. Fox, a little bit pricier over here, so his ownership takes a dip. Will, the Kings, like, how much do we need the Kings? Like, I guess there's going to be probably 1 or 2 of these cheapies that possibly do something, but they're so volatile and there's other stuff. I don't know how much I need to mess with it. I would say in cash games, probably none. Tournament's different conversation. Will, what do you have for me as far as the Kings? Because it's tough to figure this out. Anybody that says they have it figured out, they're lying or they're overconfident.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. Yeah, I think Davion Mitchell might have some value in this slate, possibly. If he can get in that 25-minute category. Just not sure if he's going to get there. Last game when they played Memphis and they got blown out, he just pulled the starters and was like, "All right, I'm tired of this," basically, and just put the bench in and let them run. That's basically what happened. So those 30 minutes are inflated, but I still think at 3,900, he's interesting value on the slate. I wish we knew what was going to happen with Marvin Bagley or Alex Len. Alex Len had one 36-minute game, and then he's down to 6 minutes in the Memphis game. Was in some foul trouble, but it's just a mixed bag of tricks here. The only person I feel really safe with is probably De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton, Buddy Hield, and probably Rashawn Holmes. That's about it.
Len played 37 minutes, the triple overtime game, by the way. So this is the amazing thing, is that the last game for Len, I pulled up the Court IQ stuff, and he started the game, right? Alex Len started the game. He played like 2 or 3 minutes, and he came out. Started the second quarter. He played a minute. He came out. Started the third quarter. Played 2 minutes. He's done for the game. Like, what is this?
I don't know.
Less than 7 minutes, 3 rotations. It's so amazing.
It's bad.
Yeah, and he's an awesome fantasy point minute player. He's not a great player, but he's great for in our world when he gets minutes. But who knows? Again, he's one of those guys. He could play 10, he could play 30. I have no clue. Maybe Gentry thinks that, we stuck with him he played in the game. They played triple overtime. Oh, we're getting the news in now as far as New York. Rose available to play. Mitch Robb available to play. Barrett available to play. Novell available to play. So the Knicks have become, and Taj Gibson. Everybody's available? Are they all probable now? Did I miss somebody?
See, I was ahead of the news. Sup?
Still like Burks.
Yeah. Kemba's not going to play, I assume now. But the ceilings, are they going to run? They're probably going to still run pretty tight rotations, but it's just, it's going to be interesting to see how they do that. But looks like everybody still is now in for New York on this national TV game. So, Will, traditionally, the Lakers, if all three stars are playing, all three are available, I'm not interested. They all kind of like hurt the ceiling everybody else, as far as Russ, as far as LeBron, as far as Davis. And that's a situation we're looking at tonight. Again, LeBron, we're assuming he's playing, but wouldn't shock me if he didn't. We'll see. And there's also stuff you can pivot to, obviously, as well. Set yourself up that way. You could pivot right to Davis. Leave yourself $200 on DK. So I don't know what to do. Or as of right now, I'm not interested a ton. But again, I have money because there are some cheapies, so I can certainly fire them if I want to. What are you doing with the Lakers?
One of these guys.
Reaction.
One of these guys is probably going off. Somebody's not. What's Malik Monk going to do today? I don't know. What's THT going to do today? I don't know. What is Carmelo going to do today? I don't know. They're playing the Kings. Somebody is going off. If I had to pick, I'd absolutely say it would be AD. AD seems matchup proof to me, in my opinion, in terms of anybody. And he's probably the most risky because we don't want him to, fall down and bump his knee and have to go to the locker room and not come back in. But I think AD at 10-6, right between Westbrook and LeBron is big. LeBron's been playing really big minutes here again the past few days, by the way. 43 against Indiana, 49 against Sacramento, 37 against Detroit. What are we doing to the age-old veteran that they're going to need down the stretch? They're trying to win games is what they're trying to do. I think Anthony Davis is my favorite play on this side.
The minutes are ridiculous with LeBron, but he's like, they have to do it because they're losing otherwise. Like you said, they're playing 45, 46, 47 minutes against Sacramento, just playing them way too much, but the games are just too close because this team is so poorly constructed. Stevie, Lakers, thoughts?
I mean, probably going to pass on these guys too. Look at the pricing on Westbrook, Davis, and LeBron. You could definitely play Anthony Davis. Big guys against Sacramento have smashed at times this season. So, I completely understand it. Sacramento, I think they're allowing the second or third most fantasy points to point guard. So, I get playing any of these three guys in a scenario where you're behind in the early games and you just want to play them instead of McCollum or Curry or Booker. But I think just there's so many better plays on this slate in these price ranges. Like Anthony Davis probably puts up 50 fantasy points. LeBron probably puts up 50 to 60 fantasy points. Westbrook probably puts up 50 fantasy points. But they're all in the 10K price range. It's not like they're 8,500 putting up 50 fantasy points. They're 10K putting up 50. So raw points matter on a 5-game slate. I completely understand playing any of the three. Outside of the three, no interest. I have no interest in THT, Melo, Monk, any of these guys. I think Malik Monk, if you're way behind and you want to pivot off of like a Simons or something, sure. He might be a guy to fire at in that scenario, but overall, you play one of the big three and just hope that you get the raw points right from one of the three guys.
Yeah, and one of them, if they're all three are playing, the odds of one of them breaking the slate is so marginal. Like it just doesn't seem likely. They all can sort of kind of basically pay up their salary potentially, but I'm not enthused about any of it. It's all sort of okay, I guess. Let's move on. Let's talk about Detroit and Portland. 209.5 is the total. Portland is a 7-point favorite. We kind of referenced this throughout the show. But Detroit, the only thing we're monitoring is Frank Jackson. He's questionable with the tibia. But Portland's the big one here. Dame Lillard's not playing basketball tonight. He's got that abdominal. Powell is out with his quad. Nasir Little is out with his ankle. So, we're currently projecting Simons, McCollum, Tony Snell in his 8% usage, Robert Covington, and Yusuf Nurkic. They're on a back-to-back for what it's worth. And then, there's some interesting pieces off the bench, like a Larry Nance, I think can potentially be an interesting tournament play. Or Nurkic, I just wish he gets more minutes. Maybe they give him some more minutes in this game because
I like Nurkic today.
Okay, so talking about Nurkic, because the minutes are just so volatile. He crushes when he's out there. He's not going to be subdued by this Detroit front court. And they need his scoring.
I think he's going to play at least 30 minutes today. They're going to have Isaiah Stewart out there. And that's really why I like him. He's 6,400. Price is down, right? Because we were expecting Dame to play. If we had this news yesterday, I think Nurk comes in at 7,500 and McCollum comes in at 85. But I think because of the lack of, or maybe Nurk comes in at 72. I don't think he's 6,400 if we knew Dame was going to be out. So I like this spot for him. We know he's got 40-point upside. He faced a big in Utah, right? Just last night, put up 40 fantasy points, 24 and 10. Are you telling me that Isaiah Stewart is a better big in the league right now than Rudy Gobert? I don't think so. Secretly, I did want to mention this. You can attack Gobert with bigs that can actually score. Sure. JVs of the world, Nurkic's of the world, Jokic. Trust me, just start playing those guys against Gobert. At any rate, love Nurkic here. I think it's a big time spot for him. I think Robert Covington has some value today at 3,900. At 3,900 on this slate with them being down bodies, he's got value. Larry Nance probably has some value if he gets 25 minutes. Cody Zeller, what's he going to do today? I don't know, but I'm saying a couple of these fringe guys, I do think has a little bit of value here. And I'm with Stevie. He mentioned this earlier. I definitely think Dennis Smith Jr. plays 20 minutes because Nasir Little's out as well. So I think he's got to get some minutes, and I think he gets 20.
Couple things. I think Covington might be like the quote unquote safer cash game play, 0.69 fantasy points per minute. Not nice. And Larry Nance as the pivot at 0.88 fantasy points per minute. Yes, Covington's minutes are safer, but Nance, I think it's a higher ceiling. The other thing is you talk about Nurkic, and he's not sleeping on anybody today. Nurkic, we're looking at a ownership projection of 38% on DK, an ownership projection of 35% on DK. And he's the third highest in his team because McCollum looking at 54% on FanDuel, 47% for Simons, respectively on DK, 64% for Simons, 64. It's basketball, it's not baseball, and 40% for McCollum. But Stevie, this is good chalk. I think it's very good chalk. It's delicious chalk, I think. But you can get away with it, in theory, in tournaments.
I think Covington's super interesting. I don't think he's going to be popular at all, and I think he's going to play 35 minutes in this game. So he's someone that could potentially fly under the radar here. We don't have a sample size. We have no idea. We can look at Court IQ. It's very, very limited. I think it's like 20 minutes. So we have no idea what the Portland rotations are going to be. We have no idea what they're going to do as far as everything in this game. But I think one thing that we know is Nurkic, if he gets the minutes, is going to smash. CJ McCollum's going to put up 20-plus shots. And Simon's going to have the ball in his hands enough to know, to pay off this price tag because he's so cheap. So, you're playing these guys. I think if you want to get different, you look at Covington, you look at Larry Nance Jr. I think those guys are the potential pivot plays. But overall, Portland's in a great spot going up against Detroit. I think Portland still wins this game. And that says a lot about CJ McCollum, Nurkic, and Simons by themselves. And I think, Covington is just someone that I think plays a lot of minutes in this game, and he's really cheap. I think he's minimum salary on Yahoo because I'm on value tags, and I'm currently tagging him right now. There you go. Free lineup HQ tag for the day. But yeah,
is it Nance? Nance is like $11 over there as well, right?
Yeah, I think he's 12. I just tagged him a few minutes ago. So there you go. There's two. But yeah, overall, Portland's in a great spot. They're going up against Detroit, and they should crush here. This game probably stays close. Portland on the second end of a back-to-back without Lillard. This game probably stays close.
I'm running an optimal right now on DK. I wonder if 4 or 5 Blazers hitting that optimal lineup, because I feel like it's going to be at least 4. Well, talk to me about the Pistons, who are just underwhelming, I think. They're fine and whatever. You can play some pieces, I guess, but nothing really I'm ecstatic about. Cunningham, sure, I guess. But, Grant can get there, right? But do you like any Pistons, enthusiastically?
Yeah, no, I think if Cade was around 65, I'd probably take a shot at 77. Look, he can still get there at 77. I don't want us to think he can't get 45 fantasy points tonight. It's in the cards against Portland. Portland is not playing good defense, so I'm not afraid. I'm just saying I think there are better options we have in that range. Like I'd absolutely play CJ McCollum for 200 more than Cade for 77 when they have a few more bodies available. I think if you're going to play anyone, Jeremy Grant's probably your guy. But you know, I'm not thrilled about getting involved with Detroit Pistons rosters.
One game left. I want to get your thoughts, Stevie, as far as the Pistons. I did run optimals, the very first one that popped up on DK. You have 8 players, right? 10 teams, 5 games. We got 4 Blazers. We have 3 Raptors and a player that plays with the Nets. I mean, that's your optimal, your cash. That's what you're going to see in cash games tonight. You're going to see Toronto, you're going to see Blazers, and you're going to see at least one big spend. And the big spend there is Durant. You can pretty much fill out the rest of the pieces. Pretty obvious there. Stevie, what are your thoughts as far as Detroit?
I think they're going to be very low owned. I think a lot of people are going to be playing Portland, and they're not going to run it back with Detroit. I think Cunningham's expensive. Grant's kind of expensive. So, I mean, it's not sexy on paper, but I think that, like, if you're playing all these Portland guys, I get it. Like, the value is fantastic, but you still kind of want the game to stay close. So who's going to keep the game close? So I think Cunningham's going to need a good game. Isaiah Stewart, I mean, they're going to kind of need his size in this game. Bay is someone that's interesting. Grant, I really like the idea of like getting at least one Detroit player running back your Portland stacks, because I mean, none of these guys are projected for over 20% ownership, and the Portland guys, we have 3 people projected for over 39%. So, I mean, Detroit stinks, and I get it. Like I said, it's not sexy, but if everyone's playing Portland, we talk about this all the time when we're talking football correlation. Portland's on the second end of a back-to-back, and nobody's playing Detroit, and you really need this game to stay close. I mean, especially for a guy like Nurkic and McCollum.
Well, we got to be concise here as far as this last game. Golden State, Phoenix, 221.5 is a total. Phoenix is a 3-point favorite against the Warriors as far as who's in, who's out, who we're monitoring. For Golden State, we have, let's see, I did write this down. Yeah, Iguodala's out with his knee. Damian Lee's not playing, and Andrew Wiggins is questionable with his back. Phoenix fully healthy, unless you don't count Kaminsky, who's out with his knee, and Abdul Nader, who's out for, I guess, injury management. What do you like as far as plays in this game, Will?
Don't look now. Otto Porter's been playing 20-plus minutes the past couple games. I do think he's a viable cheapie. In those games, 28 fantasy points, 19, 14, and 40. Played 25 against the Clippers. I'm very interested in the Otto Porter on this slate with all the other value that we have. Is it safe value? No, it's not safe like Simon's, but I do think it's good. He's 4,400. You know, if he puts up 30 fantasy points, I would absolutely accept that. But that's kind of where I am. I don't really want to play anyone from the Suns. Like Ayton at 71, God, I keep waiting for this big game. It's not coming. But I still don't hate it at 7,100. Devin Booker's been scoring the ball out of his mind right now, but still not putting up massive fantasy point games. It's pretty much Otto Porter, and that's basically it for me.
Do you need Wiggins out for Porter to be in play for you?
No.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, we currently have him projected like 22 minutes or so. Yeah. I mean, and he's not the floor. I thought he was going to be like 3-5 or something like that. He's 4-6 on FanDuel and 4-4.
It's a 5-game slate, Dean. If this was a 10-gamer, I probably wouldn't be as interested. But when you've got, you know, less value, for me anyway, less value and guys that have some ceiling at this price, I don't mind taking a shot.
All right, Stevie, your thoughts. And I just took a peek as far as ownership stuff. The highest owned guy projected right now in FanDuel is Steph Curry at 16.7%, Booker at 12.8%, and DK, I think it's even lower. Yeah, 11.8% for Ayton, Curry at 10.4%. Curry's pretty expensive. I mean, of course, you could always play Curry. Never want to discourage it. But as far as your one big span, and also he's at that guard position where, Will was talking about that earlier. Like there's some cheapies that kind of, that's sort of what you're playing your cheap spot. So yeah, I guess you can throw them in the utility, obviously. But Stevie, what do you have for me as far as Golden State and Phoenix? A fun game to watch, great watch game, but I don't know if it's a great DFS game. It's fine, maybe. We'll see.
I think if you're an MME guy, you're definitely like, if you're playing 150 lineups, you probably want to have like 25 game stacks of this game, because I think this game has the potential to break the slate. Curry, Booker, Paul, Draymond. I love his assist prop today. Ayton, I mean, like, there's so many potential pieces of this game, and there's so much value in other games that
LeBron James ruled out. There it is.
Thank you.
LeBron James
Dean.
ruled out. Hit your Davis. Hit your
Oh
Westbrook.
my
Hit your Westbrook
gosh.
triple doubles. I telling you, I was watching the last game, and he said after the game, "I'm going to play," and I'm like, I don't know if he is. He looks hurt. I mean, you never really
Just
know.
don't pull it down before I get this in, guys. Please
get yourself. Tell the people what you're doing right now. Tell them what you're doing.
I'm putting in my locks of the day with Russ and Westbrook. I mean Westbrook and AD over fantasy points. That's what I'm doing right now.
And now the slate's changing. All of a sudden, now your best big spend is
I can
Davis,
get it.
Davis or Westbrook probably.
Boom, got it.
Stevie,
now I got to go to points. I got to get Westbrook over.
Go ahead, keep hammering it away. I'll give you a second. Stevie, is the best stud Davis now, Stevie, or is it Westbrook?
Gosh,
it's probably Davis because the positions and everything else.
Hold on, Dean. I'm trying to do the same thing. Gosh,
no,
I think the best stud on the slate is probably Anthony Davis now because. Yeah. I mean, just think about like position again. Like when we're looking at point guard, there's so many.
Another one.
Many. Mine's loading. It's making me so mad. It's like the little like money bag is like throwing up money.
I'm gonna take. As a matter of fact, I'm just gonna take a whole Lakers bill. Davis, THT, Westbrook points over. Just grabbing it up.
I mean, just again, like I think this is a game that has a ton of upside. But I mean, the Lakers game is so much more interesting now.
Can I get another one?
So much more interesting now with
100%
with Davis.
Dang it.
And I mean, I think it brings THT in play too, because he again, like the thing I like Westbrook, but I think the thing about Westbrook here that is not great is like the whole point guard thing. I mean, there's just so many point guards today.
They didn't let me get it, man.
We got 3 minutes to knock out these questions, guys. We're in lightning round and be firing away. I'll call out to who I'm going to be asking, but questions I pulled from chat. I know obviously things hit the fan there for a second. Let's see. Rashawn Holmes or Triple J FanDuel tournament. Stevie, Rashawn Holmes or Triple J for a tournament?
Triple J. I already said he's one of my favorite plays today.
Precious Achua versus Tyus Jones for small field tournaments. I guess this is a utility spot. What do you have for me, Will? You prefer Precious Achua or Tyus Jones?
I think I'd take Tyus.
Stevie, pick your favorite amongst these. Anthony Simons. This is DK tournaments. Anthony Simons, Jones, or Burks?
Simons.
LeBron or Durant FanDuel tournament. I'm gonna take this one, guys. Durant over LeBron tonight.
You think he outscores him?
I think so. He might get a couple turnovers and might get injured. You never know. Favorite spend up tonight for DK tournaments. Favorite spend up. Well, I mean now like LeBron's going to be the big spend up. So like nobody's going to play Curry. Just people aren't playing him. 8% on a 5-gamer, something like that. 9%.
Yeah.
Are you with me? I know you're doing stuff.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think my favorite spin is probably going to be Russell Westbrook now. Like Russ is on his way to triple double alert, like quickly. No way he doesn't get a triple double here. But let me say this though. Here's what happens on these slates, and I'm sorry to hog the time.
It's lightning round.
We go and hammer the Lakers, and we leave Sacramento alone. Their props just got better, but we're not going to hammer those. But I am.
Stevie, Brandon Clark value play. It's not the right slate, but I guess in theory you can get there, I suppose. Brandon Clark?
Yeah, I mean, not for me. So much more value today.
Do you think Bagley gets extra run tonight? I'll answer this for all of us. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah, good luck figuring that rotation.
I don't know. I don't think so. Yes. But like maybe. Yes. I don't think so though. DK single entry must have high money player. It must have.
I did get them in, Stevie, by the way.
Must you have a high money player and have a high low player? I don't think that's not just, you don't necessarily have to look at things like that. I don't agree with that perspective. Stevie, Precious or Steven Adams on DK is the better play. Like
Precious.
Nobody wants to roster Steven Adams. Opinion on Jeremy Grant for 7.3K on DK. Like he's a secondary play. And Stevie, you were talking about run backs. I guess you can run back Jeremy Grant.
I currently have him in my DK build right now because I have 3 Portland guys. I ran it back with Grant.
Do you have DK up? Because somebody wants a 3.9 player or less, not
Covington. Robert Covington.
Or Civvy.
Yeah, no,
You said no, Civvy?
Yeah, he's already got Svi. And you guys like Covington or Nance? Nance feels more fun.
Ownership wise, I think Covington, but I think ceiling wise, Nance.
Yeah, Covington's like, I mean, more minutes, but worse fantasy point minutes. Kind of tricky. I'm not really sure where I'm at on that, but all right, we got to step aside and get out of here, make way for crunch time. Do appreciate y'all asking questions. Pardon our shenanigans with, just the slate was flipped on its proverbial head with that LeBron being out. Hopefully you guys reacted appropriately.
Gave a lot of good stuff away, Dean. This slate was fun.
Yeah, it was good times. Check out Cheap's Prop Shop. Stevie's lurking there as well. Blender's he's got his own version too. It's Game Theory, so check that one out as well. That's for premium members only. We got to go because Steven's got to set up the crunch time, and he's going to help you guys break down whatever we did not touch on. Take you guys straight up to lock. If anything else goofy happens, he'll be all over it. That was Stevie. That was Will. That was Steven producing. This was basketball. I was Dean. We're out of here. Hold.